Hey everyone, Namrita here with the Thursday evening workout review. The holiday week messed me up, but it is Thursday and we are back to training. And today we actually had a base camp return to training post-rest power ramp workout. And I have Brandon up here for review. Thanks for joining the ride tonight, Brandon. Always awesome to see you. And he turned the workout green. And something I said in the workout today is today wasn't really a workout in the traditional sense. What we think about, we're doing these training sessions or these workouts to achieve some level of stimulus. And usually that's some sort of acute fatigue that we then respond to, and our body gets stronger to respond to that stress again. But when we think about returning to training after a rest period, what we are doing is we're really trying to bring our bodies out of that state of rest. It's hard to get used to the idea of rest sometimes, but then once you start resting, you're like, oh yeah, I really needed it. And you kind of like just start like feeling a little bit different, and getting back to training can sometimes be a little bit hard. Like mentally, you're not ready to turn that switch back on. You're still used to resting and um kind of just recovering from like the first cycle of training. And sometimes it can be a little bit uncomfortable, like your heart rate's higher, your legs are sluggish, you're just like your systems are not firing um, quite how you want them to yet. And so it can be hard to think about like, oh, I have to jump into another cycle of training that's now going to be harder. Like, why do I feel so bad when I get back on the bike after rest? And that is really, really common. And this is something that you think about, like, if you're tapering for an event, this can be a challenge too, because you do this like additional rest days. You're tapering down your volume before an event to arrive, so you're nice and rested, but you also want to be sharp. You don't want that sluggish feeling in your legs when you go to do a race. So same idea, we want to have some sort of like post-rest opener. Everyone's a little bit different. Today, what we had was a series of our normal high cadence warm up. We actually had a longer warm up today for that reason, just to kind of get the legs turning over, get the blood pumping again, the oxygen delivery going. And we had 3 sets of fairly intense power ramps. They were like sweet spot to FTP, with 5 minutes of recovery in between. And then we had 10 minutes of finishing tempo, which when we talked about it in my group, I was like, watch, the tempo is probably going to feel easy today. Normally we think of, tempo at the end of the workout being a little bit more challenging, but today, given we should all be rested, we did these 3 power ramp sets for openers. The tempo should have felt relatively easy, if you did everything right. So we started the workout in erg mode today again, and we dialed the bias down. So you can see the workout in the background here, and Brandon followed instructions to the T. You can see he dialed the bias down. He was below target in the first set of fast pedals, which is what we wanted. And then we kept everybody in erg mode through the first set of power ramps. So it was 3 by 1 minutes, increasing power each minute by increasing cadence. Again, we really wanted to turn the leg speed over as quickly as possible, driving the heart rate up, driving your breathing rate up, really just trying to like get that engine going again, if you think about that engine analogy. And then after that first set of power ramps, we switched into incline mode. And you can see on Brandon's file, you can see that his lines went from super smooth power output to more variable. And that is indicative of being in incline mode, where he is controlling his output. And I did say if you were feeling good after the first set of power ramps, you could dial it back up to target, or if you wanted to spend some more time at 95%, that was also fine. Really, the goal of these openers is to feel better coming out of the workout, or feel better at the end of the workout than you did coming into it or at the beginning. And that was just kind of our whole goal today. The secondary goal, I guess, would be when we were in incline mode, really to use control. So if you were feeling really good, I didn't want you blowing through the intervals. It would have been easy to go over target on those 3-minute power ramps. But you can see Brandon was controlling his own power, but he was right on target. He was right in the middle of the range for the recovery interval. And then you can see for the power ramps, he actually got better on the second set. And so he had, I would say really good control even on the first set. You could see he went a little bit high in this last minute, but your legs start feeling good. You start getting in control of the gearing and the cadence combination to hit the power, and it can be easy to overdo those. But he did great and didn't overdo it. He stayed in control, and his final set of power ramps was even better. So that was awesome. After that, we just did some basic endurance. Again, he probably was feeling pretty good, but he kept the power in check in his endurance zone right in the middle. And then we finished with tempo. And my instructions were, if you're feeling good, you just have to be disciplined with being in incline mode, because we didn't want you to go too hard. Today, we were just doing enough to kind of hit all the energy systems, work, your aerobic system, get a little bit of lactate into the system, and work on shuttling that lactate, reminding your neuromuscular system what it's like to pedal at higher cadences, to do a slightly harder effort at the end of the workout. And that's really all we were doing today, is just getting your body back on track. And you can see he did feel pretty good. He started out his tempo at the higher end of the range, but then gradually settled back in to where he was, I would say, pretty steady state, right in that middle range for tempo, which was exactly what we wanted to do. Going back to the purpose of this cycle, we are going to be doing a lot more tempo work, but if you're always riding tempo too hard, then you're not going to get the intended benefits. Like I said tonight, in order to be consistent, to hit the consistency, the rhythm, and the progression of the program, you have to have some discipline. When you're not riding in erg mode, you can't always be riding too hard. And so it is okay for tempo to feel easy. Like today, I thought tempo, it seemed like for most people, it felt pretty easy, which is a sign that you rested appropriately and the opener workout did its job. And so you finished the workout feeling like, okay, I can ride tempo and it feels easy. And we talked about it being our secret weapon, where we want to train our bodies to be comfortable riding at tempo, to recover at tempo, for it to feel easy. Because I will say that most people don't do that. So outside of base camp, by and large, most people don't do that. They either ride too hard or too easy, or fatigue prematurely and don't pace themselves. And so that is what we are starting to work on again. Okay, that's it for tonight's review. Actually, let me show one more thing. I'm going to show heart rate, just because it's interesting to see after a period of rest, you could see your heart rate go up pretty high, or higher than it was. And that's just part of that kind of endocrine or the hormonal response, back to that acute training stress. But it should settle in pretty well. Now for Brandon, I looked at his efficiency factor, EF, was 1.3 for the workout. Again, that is measuring for the whole workout here, his normalized power divided by his average heart rate. And 1.3 is actually a little bit higher than what he was doing before the rest period. So that means that is a good thing. He's producing more power, if you're measuring it by normalized power, for the heart rate. So his heart rate was not over elevated today. That's a good thing. That's just another one of those metrics that we're going to continue to track. Tim's going to put out even more information on the metrics and training with data. But again, that's my final point. So great job tonight. Wonderful to see you all back, and we'll see you again on Tuesday. Thanks.